What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you concerning comparison of fighters in history and how history repeats itself. You know, different styles, different decades, you know. And one thing came to my attention is the comparison of two Southpaws and a current fighter and a fighter of old, you know. Erislandy Lara and Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. The only thing they really had in common, really, they were both Southpaws. They were both slick. Lara was a little tall. I think Sweet Pea was like 5'7", 5'8". Lara's, you know, Lara's not a tall dude. He's like 5'9", you know what I mean? But Lara's a little taller, you know. But the similarities, you know, with the boxing IQ was similar. The ring IQ, the experience, you know. Whitaker, I would love to see a fantasy matchup. You know what I mean? First of all, you know, this should really be a fantasy, you know, because it's like a pick'em fight between a 30-year-old Pernell Whitaker and a 30-year-old Erislandy Lara. That would be a good fight to see. You know, some guys that are fans of brawls, this ain't for y'all. This particular fight would be a fight for people that love the pure sport of boxing. That's what it would be. And it would be a beautiful thing to see those two in there. You know, a lot of people booed the De La Hoya Whitaker fight, okay, because of how it was fought, you know, and it was similar to the Canelo Lara fight. The only difference was it was no difference. It was the same type of platform. The fight ended the same type of way. This is why these comparisons must be compared. Look at Whitaker's first suspicious. It wasn't a win, but it was a draw, right? It was with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. He fought Chavez Sr. and he clearly outboxed him. You know, he boxed all around him. Chavez did what Chavez does. He worked the body. He threw punches and bunches. You know what I mean? He rallied, okay? He made a fight out of it because Whitaker was touching Chavez and really getting into his face and breaking his defense. He was really doing that to the point where a lot of people knew, well, this guy Pernell Whitaker is special. You know what I'm saying? Because of what he's able to do to a fighting legend at the time. You know what I mean? Because Julio Cesar Chavez was already a legend. You know, and that was his first blemish, and it should have been his first loss. But because of the politics of the time, you see, that was okay, we know, you know, that's similar to Triple G and Canelo. You know what I mean? So they had to do it to save face. They didn't want to give him a loss because of a loss, which is retarded. But, you know, for politics reasons, they didn't want to do that. So what they did is, okay, let's give him a draw. Let's give him a draw, you know, because and they gave Whitaker a draw. And then, you know, Whitaker knew he won that fight. You know what I'm saying? Another fight. Well, let's compare that. Look at the Lara fight with when he fought Paul the Punisher Williams. When he fought Paul the Punisher Williams, he hit Paul with punches from all. Dude, he could not miss Paul with that left hand. He hit him so much that the commentators was like, dude, we're really in about the 9th, 10th round, because you could see Paul Williams kept throwing punches. Now, he was game, but that's Paul Williams. He's like Manny Pacquiao. He's not going to stop punching until you knock him out. Like Sergio knocked him out in the second fight. You know what I mean? So he's like an Energizer bunny until you take that battery out. And you got to take that battery out by knocking him out. And that's exactly what happened. But Lara couldn't do that because he didn't have that power. And it was surprising because that was after the Martinez fight. You know what I'm saying? So people thought, okay, well, you know, and Lara did a good impersonation of the blueprint that Martinez already gave him, because Martinez was another Southpaw. So it was easy to execute for Lara. You know what I mean? But Lara at the time was 16 wins, no losses, I think 11 KOs, something like that. You know, he was definitely an undefeated fighter, and that should have been his 17th win, but it wasn't. You know, at the end of that fight, they had ruled it a win for Paul the Punisher Williams. Now, this is the thing that gets me about that. The fight was so enraged, and you heard so many boos, and then people took action. The judges that judged that fight were suspended, and they were supposed to be suspended indefinitely. Okay, but one particular judge went to Washington, and you know what I mean, and petitioned for his right to judge to judge fights, and it was retarded. So you mean to tell me you got the sanctioning body suspended you indefinitely? Well, it can't be indefinitely now, because one of them got their job back, but you know, you got suspended on suspicion of fraud, but then that's all it was. It was just a discipline of the judge, but you didn't really solve the problem. The problem was the judge that judged the fight wrong. If you can prove, and they had to prove a certain amount, or it had enough speculation at that time to know this was in a fix, well, why didn't you overturn the ruling? Why didn't you just overturn the fight? You should at least call it a no contest at that point. You know what I'm saying? That would make more sense than still putting a one loss on a person's record. But since he was little known from Cuba or whatever, they didn't want to do that. So that's the similarities, you know what I mean? And Paul Punisher Williams, just like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., were the draws of the sport. You know what I mean? They had contracts. You know, they had a following. They had, fan base and all that good stuff. So these guys coming out, not saying Whitaker did, but Whitaker didn't have it like Chavez, because Chavez was a living legend. Okay. The next fight I think about was the fights that they probably should have lost. I think it was the Carlos Medina fight with Lara, and then Carlos Medina, one of those. Was it Carlos Medina? Or Carlos Molina? One of those. Carlos outworked Lara, and Lara was that prospect. Now, this was before his first loss, so a lot of people just chop it up as karma. But anyway, here's the deal. He goes and fights this particular guy, and and they give him the win. A lot of people were scratching their head on that. So those type of fights happen. With Whitaker had Whitaker was more dynamic, because Whitaker was fighting a guy named Diobelis Hurtado. And that fight was weird because, it wasn't weird. Whitaker was losing. He got dropped twice. Hurtado was a fast, quick, attacking fighter. And he was awkward too. So he'd throw punches from all types of angles. So you can't dodge all of them like the Matrix. Not the way that Whitaker done it, because Whitaker did a little squat. And, Lara tries to do that, but Lara just comes straight down. Lara doesn't really move side to side like Rigondeaux, because Rigondeaux kept more than likely reminds me of Whitaker, a smaller Whitaker though. You know what I mean? Especially when they dip down and they try to avoid punches, right? So, he did catch Hurtado in the 11th round. And he knocked Hurtado out. But he needed to get that knockout to get the Oscar De La Hoya fight. Now, speaking of the De La Hoya fight, that's a direct comparison of the Lara Canelo fight. So you had two of these fights here, and they both ended this way that they supposed to end it due to politics. Whitaker outlanded De La Hoya. He couldn't hit Whitaker. De La Hoya threw a 10-punch combination on this brother and could not hit him. That was the first time the Matrix has ever been represented in the sport of boxing. This was before the Matrix. That might have gave the brothers, the Warskowski brothers, the term of, the dodging, because he was dodging them damn punches from De La Hoya. You know what I'm saying? And De La Hoya was definitely, trying to do that. De La Hoya did get in some good punches here and there. You know what I mean? But it wasn't way as many as Whitaker put on him. It's just the punches weren't affecting him because De La Hoya was, a taller, bigger guy at that time, I feel. And Whitaker's not just a devastating knockout puncher, right? But the fight was good. Whitaker did a good job. I felt he won. But De La Hoya, being the golden boy at the time, got the decision. Just like Lara and Canelo, okay? Lara and Canelo, same thing. Lara outlanded him, outpointed him, you know what I mean? And Canelo, of course, being Canelo, kept it competitive by throwing punches. You know what I mean? And that's all it took for him to win. And on the scorecard, that shit was just off the charts with Levi Martinez, like 117, 111. It's like, dude, that's like 9 rounds to 3. You had Canelo win in 9 rounds, you know what I mean? So yeah, the comparisons are there, you know what I mean? And really what seals the deal on that is the Whitaker Trinidad fight, right? The Whitaker Trinidad fight was like Whitaker coming back out of, because, by that time, he had a lot of allegations against him. He had some drug charges, because, he sniffed that Shiola, you know what I mean? That's his prerogative. And, in an interview, he said, hey, that's my prerogative. What I do outside the ring shouldn't be nobody's business. I want to enjoy my life as other people enjoy theirs. And it made me laugh because I remember that interview. He was partying. So, but he was coming back, from a layoff. And, he fought Felix Trinidad, an undefeated fighter. Felix Trinidad was able to, and this was Trinidad's first like big HBO show, because that was a great card. Pernell, Sweet Pete Whitaker, Felix Trinidad, dude, that was a fight. You know what I mean? And that was in '99 also. So it was one of those things that was very impressive. And Trinidad, threw that right hand. He dropped Whitaker in the 3rd round with that right hand. So he sealed the deal and he rocked Whitaker had a good rally probably in the 8th or 9th, but he couldn't keep it going, because he would throw a jab to the head and to the body, throw a jab to the head and to the body, and it was hurting Trinidad, you know what I mean? But that didn't last because Trinidad kept teeing off on those shots, but it was definitely a good fight for him. But that just showed that Whitaker was no longer, by '99, a fighter that he once was in the mid-90s. You know what I mean? So he started to fade a little bit, So a lot of people would blame it on the drug life or the party life or whatever, his lifestyle, But, everyone just has a date. Boom. Comparison. Lara. Hurd, undefeated fighter, young fighter, strong fighter. You know what I mean? This time, these are super welterweights, though. Who cares? What it is, it was a good fight. Lara fought. He fought well. He fought like, hey, this is how you want to win a fight. But here's the deal. I don't feel that Lara was conditioned, but I think that he was a little bit too old, just like Whitaker was when he fought Trinidad. If he would have fought Trinidad in 97, 96, he would have beat Trinidad easy. That's just my opinion. You know what I mean? Because the way Whitaker was, he was fresh, he was sharper. You know what I mean? He could step on the outside of that left foot of Trinidad and find that left. You know what I mean? And when Trinidad tries to launch that right, he would have saw it coming more freshly. He would have moved more, with better speed at that time. Lara, I think it would have been the same thing too. Because if you can guys remember, Hurd was a prospect, or a prospect at the time. He wasn't really a fighter that he is now before he fought Trout. Now Hurd is in his prime. You know what I'm saying? But if Lara would have fought him 3 years ago, they would have called that a cherry pick. Because it was in question, because it was like, okay, the young fighter, he's a young fighter from Maryland. No disrespect to him or nothing like that. He's on fire right now. The way he fights. He has a fan-friendly style. He's a big bastard. He should be fighting at 160, 168, the way he looks. You know what I mean? But he did beat Lara. Lara found himself in a position that he's not used to. When he fought Angulo, dude, that was 4 years ago. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's a lot to, a lot of people can say what they want. A lot of people thought Lara won. But I'm like this. What was the difference in the fight? The 12th round. You know what I mean? And I'm a Lara fan. Don't get me wrong. But I think Lara did not anticipate that guy being that sharp and that fresh in round 12. Because he was definitely, you could see his face. You know what I mean? His face was like, it was looks of discouragement. Like, dude, I'm fucking tired. You know what I mean? This dude keeps coming. You know, I hit this dude uppercuts, straight lefts, right hooks, more uppercuts. You know what I mean? And counters. And he still keeps coming, and he kept coming. You know what I mean? And he started working the body, and that bothered him, and he dropped him in the 12th round. So that was the difference in that fight. You know what I mean? But both of those guys, Whitaker and Lara, that's how they're similar. You know, with the controversial scorecards, you know, certain fights, you know damn well they supposed to won but didn't get. You know what I mean? Southpaw stance, being slick, you know, being avoided. You know, these are the similarities between Lara and Whitaker. You know, so a lot of people would disagree, but this is my opinion. This is my channel. But I would like to know what everyone wants to think about this particular comparison, you know, and a fantasy matchup, because I did talk about that too. You know, so you guys tell me what you think about the comparison, if it's legitimate or you agree with it, between Erislandy Lara and Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker's careers. But anyway, please subscribe, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.